Hello, my name is Joel Reynolds, otherwise known as Group 33 for CEE424, and this is MR credit for Building Product Disclosure and Optimization Material Ingredients. Wow, that's a long title. All right, let's get into it. First off, let's get to know what the intent of this credit is. There's a lot of text there, and you all can read, so I'm not going to regurgitate it for you verbatim. But the gist of this credit is to help guide both construction project teams and raw material manufacturers to adopt materials that are essentially better for the environment, for the economy, for us as humans and as society as a whole, and for the building's life cycle too. We want to make sure that better products can help buildings last longer so we don't have to keep rebuilding them, and the materials we put into our buildings don't poison us slowly over time. Not only encouraging the use of better materials, which we know the ingredients and information for, but rewarding project teams and material manufacturers for improved efforts in this regard can protect a building's and its inhabitants' health. By the way, you should make sure not to skip over the stuff that's underlined. Definitions. Wow, there's a lot of definitions. Again, I'm not your speak and spell robot, so you guys can read this stuff yourselves. Feel free to pause the video, shut me up for a second, and just write some of the terms down so you know what to study for before the quiz. Also, I've underlined something in here somewhere. There it is. Hey, make sure you know this stuff that's underlined. Also, some of the plain old non-underlined stuff too. Darn, nothing underlined on this one, but you should still pause the video and look at these terms over. Okay, now into the fun bits, where we look at the 3 ways we can get some credit for this credit. We have option 1, material ingredient reporting for a measly single point. Option 2, material ingredient optimization for another measly point, or option 3, product manufacturer supply chain optimization. More words, but still only 1 point. The good news is that all types of construction can earn the same amount of points for this credit. The bad news is that you can only receive 1 or 2 points, so one of these options has to get left out no matter what. So for the first option, you have to make sure to use at least 20 different permanently installed products for your project, but they also have to come from 5 different manufacturers, and you have to use one of these programs to make sure the material chemical inventory is specific down to 0.1%. If you want to go above and beyond for this option, just double the amount of products up to 40 and you've got it. Sticking with option 1, you have to first find out if this option makes sense for your project. You have to see what products are available for your project, use the approved programs to make sure they comply, and then specify those products. Make sure there's 20 of them and don't get them all from the same guy. Next, you can't just forget about those products once construction is started. You have to review the submittals for the project and make sure the products are meeting the credit requirements. Then, once the project is complete, count up all the products you used and compile their documentation to receive credit for this option. This is Table 1, showing an example of what has to be reported to whom and based on what framework for the first 3 programs listed way back on the first slide for option 1. Go back if you don't believe me, it's still there. These 3 programs are the largest and most common programs used, but there are others listed on that previous slide. Take your time and pause this video if you want to read everything on this table. Moving on to option 2, we now measure products used by cost percentage of the total value of all permanently installed products for the project. For your ordinary option 2, you need at least 25% of the project's product cost to have documentation of their material ingredient optimization using the paths shown here. But you can earn exemplary performance by doubling that percentage by cost up to 50%. Just make sure that they still meet the credits criteria. Now, for option 3, we again have to use building products for at least 25% by cost of the total value of permanently installed products in the project that are sourced from, in layman's terms, responsible manufacturers. What I mean by saying this is that they document at least 99% by weight of the ingredients used to make their building product. That's basically all of the ingredients. They also must have third-party verification of their supply chain. There's a huge laundry list of things that have to be verified. Feel free to crack open your reference guide and see how many there are. I'll give you a hint, there's a lot. Unfortunately, there is no exemplary performance available for option 3. Since option 2 and 3 are so similar, They have almost identical step-by-step guidances. First, you have to specify products that are compliant with the credit requirements. Then you have to track them, again, just like in option 1, by reviewing the submittals for the project. Then you can use either equation 1 or 2, based on the option, to determine the value of these products. Let's go look at those equations now. For option 2, use equation 1, where we find the percentage of the materials cost to make sure it's at least 25%, and ensure we get credit for this credit. Don't worry about those variables just yet. We'll define them soon and come back and look at these equations again. For option 3, use equation 2. It's confusing, I know, but again, we want to make sure we're above 25% of the materials cost for the project. Now for option 2, only 30% of the compliant building products can be made up by structure and enclosure materials. But for projects with a significant amount of those materials, project teams can use equation 3 to exceed the 30% cap with a new calculated limit for those materials. Okay, I promised we'd define those pesky variables, so here they are, and look, there's something underlined. Now, for the most part, these variables are just multipliers used to show the improved value of a product, the program used, etc. For instance, the program valuation factor is determined by, for example, if you're using Cradle to Cradle Certified version 3.0, you can have 100% value by cost for a silver rating in that program, or 150% value by cost for a gold or platinum rating within that program. A side note, products sourced within 100 miles of a project site are valued at 200% of their base contributing cost, so they count as double in your percentage in both option 2 and 3. And all compliant products can be combined to reach the 25% threshold in either option, but only can be counted once in either option 2 or 3, so you can't have it double dip in either option. Now that you know what these variables mean, here are those 3 equations again. Feel free to look in the reference guide for more specific percentage coefficients for these variables, and pause the video if you want to take a longer look at these equations. So here's an example of what a cradle-to-cradle certification would look like. It would include a product and company name, as well as the version of the product, and show what rating that product would receive in the 5 categories shown. Also, in the top left, you can see the overall rating this product would have, in this case, a bronze rating. I know I mentioned the silver, gold, and platinum ratings before for this program, but only a basic or bronze rating is required to be considered compliant for this credit. Another example here, this time of a green screen list translator result. The green screen list translator identifies each list that green screen references, including its source, which hazards in the green screen it covers, whether it is authoritative or screening, and which green screen hazard level and subsequent benchmark score applies. Once the project's all said and done, you can't forget about your documentation. Thankfully, LEED has made a convenient table showing exactly what is needed from a project team as they're compiling their documentation for each option they chose for this credit. Feel free to pause the video if you want to take a longer look at this table. Thanks for watching, and good luck on the quiz.